Alright, welcome to this little dev blog video. I thought I'd do a video today because I've been doing blog posts about all this massive game launcher creator development update that I'm doing. But I'm getting tired of typing. I've been coding for weeks and weeks on end. To be fair, I've been coding for the last 2 years straight nearly. But I'm getting tired of typing out. So I thought, you know what? Let's ditch the text, let's ditch the screenshots, let's do a little video so I can actually show you the progress on what we're doing here. So I'm hoping that from today's date, this 1.14 update for GLCV3 is going to actually be officially released by the end of next week. Now, you don't have to wait till then. There's a beta version already available for you to download if you're part of our Discord server. You can go to the GLCV3 betas channel and download and install that. But I do recommend backing up your launch project folder before you use it, because it is a beta version. It's not the official release just yet, but hopefully we'll get that out by next Friday. So I'm just going to show you what I've done here. So if you remember, in GLCV3 in the Indian developer editions, we have the built-in patching system, which is AOPS 2, which is a complete rewrite of what the initial AOPS was for V2, which was a decent, stable, fast patching system. However, we did we did realise that there is a need for many more options for developers that they may need. So we took all that into consideration, and I rewrote AOPS for GLCV3. It's now called AOPS 2. It's much faster, much slicker, much more efficient, and has many more options as well. Literally, we go as far as to say it's the fastest game patching system in the world, and that literally is, without a shadow of a doubt, no lie. And I will literally put any competitor, which we don't really have many, to the test if they want to do that. But we can almost guarantee, we can guarantee that this is the fastest patching system in the world. I mean, we have tested this on some supercomputers. We have some game development teams that use GLC, big development teams, and one guy, he's got a Threadripper in his computer, and it just, AOPS just tears it apart. So it's the reason why we have the patching system built into GLC. The reason why we put our efforts so much into the patching system is because we understand how much of a need it is for slick and flawless updates. So when V3 released, AOPS 2 was released with it. It was built in, and it still is built in. However, it was a little bit cumbersome to create patches and stuff, and I just didn't like it. And I thought, you know what, there's a better way to do this. So what I did was, I came away from V3 and created a patch builder application. Now, this patch builder application will go into V3. There's no doubt about that. So in the new 1.14 update, you're going to actually get this patch builder, which you'll be able to launch from within V3, the V3 editor itself. So what you'll do now is you'll create a new project. So you've got your V3 running in the background with your game launcher, and then you open the patch builder up. And the patch builder will be like, do you want to open a project? Do you want to create a new one? So let's create a new one, just so I can quickly show you exactly how it will work. So I'm just going to call this my test game 2023, and then it's going to ask you for a starting version number. Now, if this is a brand new game or a brand new release, you could literally just type in 1.0. Or 1.00. That doesn't really make much difference at this point. Or you can start it off at any version that you want, but this will be the first iteration of your game. So if you've already got a game that's been out for a couple of years and you've just switched over to GLC to manage your game patches, it doesn't matter, because you can still start at version 1 if you've still got your version 1 files, which I'm assuming you will have somewhere. Or you can just start from whatever the current version is right now. 1.5.2 or 2. 6.3 or whatever it is right now. It doesn't really matter. So for the sake of this, we're going to pretend that it's a brand new game, and the starting version is going to be 1.0. You literally just click create and that's it. So what it's done now is it's created a brand new project just specifically for that game. And you're presented with a blank patch list. So as you can see up here, we have a drop down list of versions now, so you can now manage multiple versions of your game patches all within one window. So you can literally create the first patch, and then when you come to create the next patch, you just create a new version here. I'm going to show you how you do it. So we've got our version 1.0 here. What the first thing we want to do is edit the patch salt. So if you're familiar with GLC right now, you'll know what the patch salt is. And patch salt is your own little unique bit of salt that we put on inside the checksum, just so that nobody can hack the checksum up, and whatever. So this should be ideally between 8 to 16 characters long, and you can't use the pipe and you can't use hash because they're reserved for internally in AOPS. So let's just go ahead and just do some random characters. We can just do some here. I might even put like a little random generator button in. That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? So you could just do something like that and click update. Now the patch salt you can change for each version. So if you create another version like 1.1, then the patch salt will be blank, so you'll need to create a salt for each version. Now you can have the same salt for every version, it doesn't matter. It's just if you want to change it, you can do on the fly. So once you've done your patch salt, it's literally as easy as going to scan directory, and then it's going to ask you for the directory on your computer. So I've got loads of tests here on my desktop, so let's just see if I can pick one. We've got a test game here. Don't know what that is, but we'll scan it. No, we won't. Let's go for something else. I've got another one I did before. A new patch test somewhere. There it is. So files in. So these, this is just an example. This is not an actual game. It's actually Macromedia Fireworks, I think. So I'm using as a test. You just select the parent directory like that and click OK. It's going to pop up with a little warning just saying that these scans are very fast and very intensive, so it's very advisable to just, if you're going to click yes and do the scan, just leave your computer alone until it's finished the scan, just so there's no problems. But the scan's that fast, it shouldn't even take that long. So let's perform the scan now. And there you go, it's managed to scan all those files. So how many files have we got in there? We have a total of 982. It says 981 there, but don't forget we're starting at an index of 0, so we actually have 982 files in there. So as you can see, it's scanned that now, and it takes the folders with it, the subfolders, so you can navigate through the files. So the biggest difference here now with this system compared to what was released with GLCV3 is you can now modify the patch list before you do the actual final compile. So we have some new options which I've introduced here, but I'll go through the standard ones first. As you can see, the checksum is generated through the date modified of the file, and then the hour stamp, the minute stamp, the second stamp. And then we have the byte size, so the size in bytes on the computer, and then we have the checksum, which is a combination of these, including your patch salt. Now I've introduced some new features to this, so we now have compression for each individual file, or you can do all the files. We have ignore file and a force overwrite as well. So and just before I start introducing what them features do, I'll just let you know another thing as well is in the past that 0-byte files have been unsupported, and that's purely because if there is no content to the file, how can you patch it? It's just a blank file. However, I've still come up with a little ingenious way for us to support 0-byte files. So you can still support 0-byte files. What will happen is, though, you don't need to upload the file to your server. The AOPS patching system will detect that it's a 0-byte file, and it will create the file for you instead, because it's just a blank file. So it will create the file, and then it will stamp it. So the checksum should line up. So yeah, so these new features like compression. So we're using LZMA compression, LZMA 2, and And all you need to do now is you can right click on the files. If you select a file, you'll see down here at the bottom in the status bar, it tells you everything about the file there as well. But yeah, you can just select individual files like this, and you can apply compression. So 0 is no compression and 9 is maximum compression. And then you can choose to ignore the file, and then also choose to force overwrite. And you can do this in bulk if you want, so you can select multiple files, or you can just simply select all and apply whatever option you need to apply to the whole lot of the files, basically. So there's full flexibility on that. Now there is reason you might be wondering why some of these features might be needed. And one example of why they might be needed is so the compression, for example. It's no good applying compression to all the files sometimes in your development, because some files don't actually like being compressed. For example, there's a lot of DLL files out there that don't like being compressed. Some executable files don't like being compressed, especially if they contain data that's already compressed. It just, there can be bumps along the road, but we're providing you with these options now to not apply compression to individual files. So you could apply compression to all your game. You could do a test and see if your patching system works, and if you get an error on a file and you check the debug log and it says that it's a compression error, then you can just come back to your patch list and then just go, you know what, I'm just going to put 0 for that file because it doesn't need any compression. It's obviously causing a problem with the patching system. So again, everything's available all these options are available in your hands. You don't have to come back and go, oh, we found a bug, this is not working, because you have these options available now. So if there is an issue with a certain file or a particular file that doesn't like compression, as an example, you can just come back to your patch list and just ignore the compression for that file. Easy as that. And then we also have an ignore flag. So the ignore flag now is another interesting one. So you might scan all your files in. Now there's only 982 here, but there could be, your game could consist of 40,000 files there. And there might be a bunch of files or a folder that you don't actually need to ship with the patch. So it's easy enough just to now select those files and ignore, just like that. It'll show up as yes under the ignore column. And what will happen here is when you come to build the patch file, this version update, then the AOPS compiler will just ignore those files. It won't compile those files for you. So it's a very easy way. So you can still keep them in. You don't have to delete the actual line from here. You just ignore them, because there might be a point in the future where you think, oh, you know what, we need to include this file, actually. So you can just simply come back and then choose to not ignore it. And then finally is the force overwrite option. And again, there's a few scenarios where this is possible. So normally you would do no. This is default, because obviously the patcher will look for any changes in the file and go, yeah, there's a date change here, or there's a byte change, so we need to patch this file. However, there are some instances where developers need to force overwrite a particular file on the user's computer, and you can simply do that again just by right clicking, force overwrite, and setting that to yes. So no matter whether the date's changed or the byte size has changed, or even if everything is exactly the same, because if the files are exactly the same and the checksum lines up, normally it will just skip over it because it'll be like, yeah, there's not been an update to that file. However, you might need to force an overwrite update, because sometimes, if it's just a simple text string that's in that file and you change the text string but the byte size doesn't change, it's going to differ. So yeah, there are circumstances where these things need to be done. So you can manipulate the whole patch file for this version, which is 1.0, and then once you've done that, you simply click on build and then patch files, and then what you do, most of this gets pre-populated, so the AOPS patch builder will remember what the files were, the folder was for these files for this version, so it'll automatically populate that. It'll automatically populate the patch file list because it's already generated it for you. So all you need to do really is specify an output directory. So I'm going to set it to files out. So what I can do is, just to show you how this works, I can delete the contents of that. I'm going to files out, I'll just copy that path, paste that. Okay, that's not for finishing, there you go, it's gone. Paste it in there, so that's where we want our new patch files to come out. So this is the the files in folder. So as you can see, it's Macromedia Fireworks software that's in there. So this is where we want the newly compressed and renamed files to go into. Then it's going to ask for your patch salt, and now we store this online. So this is a bit that I've skipped actually. So what you do is, remember earlier on we did the edit patch salt. What you need to do is take that text, put it in a notepad file, it's just a text file, and then upload it to your web server, and then we can just simply specify in here where it is. So we can, for my test, I've done it on the buyboxmedia.co.uk, AOPS2 test, and then salt. And then a custom extension which you can append to the end. Highly recommend that you do this every single time, because if you leave an extension out, you're going to come across a whole host of problems. It's either going to be server side, where the server goes, yep, we're not going to pass that executable file to the user or whatever, or it could be client side, where your user's computer alarms start kicking off, you know, firewalls start kicking off, and antiviruses start kicking off, going, oh, this app's trying to download this executable file. So what you do is you simply just append a simple extension at the end, and it'll kind of mask it, because it'll append whatever you put in here to the end. So .exe will then become .exe AOPS, and then what will happen is, on your user's computer, is the patching system will download the file, and then it'll take off the custom extension, so everything goes back to normal. And there's a couple of flags down here at the end as well. You can ignore compression, because there might have been, you know, a few files that you did particular compressions to, and then when you come to the end building your patch out, you might just think, I just want to ignore all the compression. So you can do that, and then you can also choose to close the dialog when the compilation's complete as well. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward, and you have a whole new host of options to go through now, and it's literally just a case, I'm just going to ignore compression on this one just to show you. It's just literally just a case of clicking update. It's going to export the patch files, and it's going to export them to the files out folder here. As you can see, it's already started. And there we go, all done. So your files will now be ready. Well, they should be. I don't know where they've gone. Where are they gone? Where's the files gone? I don't know where the files are gone. Let me try that again. Bearing in mind, I'm still coding this up, so I've got every right to be, you know, this is going to be okay. There we go, we can see it's generated them now. I will run this through a lot of stress tests before we release, don't worry. This is why I'm taking my time with 1.14, because I want to make sure that everything is right. You know, everything's got to be 100%. But I mean, you can't expect too many bugs with AOPS2, because we've been developing it for so long now. You know, we kind of know where the bumps along the road can happen. So I'll just let that finish off running. And then literally once this is finished, when it decides to finish, I've got compression on this time. I didn't ignore it. I took that flag off. So that's why it's taking a little bit longer than normal, because it's compressing the files. But you can see here that all the files are ready to go for the patch build. See this one here, this is what I was talking about earlier, is this file here, this zib.dll file, it doesn't like being compressed. It just does not like being compressed. So what I'll do is I'll just show you now. I'll cancel that. I'm going to go down to this, and I'm going to say compression 0. Or we could just do the rebuild and ignore the compression. So we could just do ignore compression flags again, and then update. So you know in future, this is what I'm saying, if you get a problem on the patch build, or if there's a problem once you've distributed your patch with the compression, the logs will tell you that there's a problem with the compression, either the decompression or the compression itself. And if there is, you can literally just single those files out and just apply no compression to them. And there you go. You can see how fast that was done. So now we should have a sound as a pound. Yeah, there's still a lot of things I need to go through. However, the main thing is I just wanted to show you how this was done. So what you would do is you just upload these to your server now, your web server, and then update the remote version on the server, and then everything is good to go. Everybody's ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to do all the tutorials as well. I'm looking forward to actually getting the documentation and tutorials sorted for V3 and this new patch builder as well. And for the developers as well, there's some new options, so you can run it command line now on the patch builder as well. So which is really good, because I know a lot of people, a lot of teams, developer teams like to have user pipeline, and you can do that now with the new AOPS 2 patch builder. You can do it all through by using PowerShell, or anything that you want like that, any kind of automated system, because you can literally just specify all the commands via switches in the command line to the CLI patch builder. But again, all this is documented. All this has got documentation for it. I've been writing the documentation as I've been coding this application up. So as soon as it's released, it's ready, it's good to go. The documentation will all be there as well. It's probably just going to take me maybe 2 or 3 days just to get the video tutorials done for those that don't really like to read documentation. So I'll get the video tutorials done as soon as 1.14 is out. And then we're ready to rock and roll. So yeah, I just thought I'd give you a bit of a glimpse into that. I'm going to go ahead and make myself another coffee now, and it's a full day of work. Carry on coding this and see where we can get up to. But thanks for tuning in, and there's a whole lot more to look forward to in this 1.14 update. So I will see you back in the Discord.